Welcome to another day in the Matrix. This is Red Pill Podcast 151. Hope you're all having an amazing weekend so far. Also, excuse any noise in the background. It's raining today and it is absolutely pouring out there, so you might hear a little bit of static noise, but it's all good. It's probably better that it rains. So let's just get straight into today's podcast. We have so much to go over. I've gotten a lot of questions since the last YouTube video I put out and since our last Red Pill, the Year of the Dragon special, since it's been a full week of the Lunar New Year, Chinese New Year, and we have a lot to decode today and expose specifically to the month of March and April. And we're right there. We're getting through this month of February, heading into March, which is a crucial month on the world stage. It's always been. And without any further ado, let's just get straight into today's podcast. And if you're new here to the Wolfpack, welcome. So great to have you here with us. If you've yet to get access to the Discord server, please make sure to send me a direct message on Patreon with your Discord username, and I will reply back to you in a direct message on Patreon with the Discord server invite. Please don't comment below or send me an email trying to get Discord access. I won't be able to help you that way. Please follow those instructions that I just shared. And we're doing great with the altcoin voting system, but one thing I wanted to share is that I already let everyone know that please don't vote on the coins that are in the What I'm Investing In specials. We just did one at the start of the new year, and I told everyone that I will do those pretty much every 2.5 months. So that includes things like VeChain, Theta, HBAR, Cardano, Zilliqa. These are projects we're going to make sure to cover in the What I'm Investing In special every 2.5 to 3 months. So we'll be doing that actually very soon. I don't know about next week, but depending on how things go in the market, we might dedicate next week to that. And I'm going to go with the flow on these. I don't want to lock them in too far in advance because we need to have the room for what the market brings to us and respond accordingly. So that'll just alleviate some of the coins that are being voted on so that we could put our focus and attention onto stuff we've never looked at before, and maybe stuff that we at least haven't looked at for 3, 6, maybe 9 months. So let's get straight into today's podcast. Again, apologies about any of this rain in the background, but I think my audio settings are set good enough to the point where it shouldn't be too distracting. So let's get into this. Also, one other quick update, since I've received some frequently asked questions since the pre-sale launch of my new Decoding Mastermind course, which ended this week. Some members of the community wanted to know if their Patreon member discount would work for this Decoding Mastermind course, and yes, absolutely, it definitely will work, and this is the lowest price on this course until March. So after March 1st, the price will be going up on this course. So this is the introductory period, and your Patreon member discount is lower than the intro sale that's on the banner of my website. I brought this up in my YouTube video, public YouTube video. So if you go over to WatersAbove.com and you were to add this course to the cart by just scrolling down here, putting purchase, and following a couple prompts, it will bring it to a checkout screen, and in checkout you could put the promo code WOLFPACK20. That'll give you a 20% off discount. It's the biggest discount available at this time. So even if you missed out on the pre-sale, you can still take advantage of your Patreon member promo code to get the biggest discount available now before the price increases in March 1st. And for everyone who's joined this new Decoding Mastermind course, I appreciate all of your continued support. It's been just amazing this past week, hearing all your feedback and some of your insights and input and aha moments, and I'm just really grateful for all of this. So since it's released, I've gotten really amazing feedback. It means the world to me to be a part of your journey, truly. So for those that want to join this mastermind course and you weren't available to get it in the pre-sale, it's still available, no worries, and you can use your current Patreon member promo code. It will be in the description and the pinned comment below. So one thing to mention about this week Some of you might be aware, some of you might not be, but tomorrow the stock market is closed for President's Day, Monday, February 19th. So this is a 3-day weekend. And let's get straight into today's decode. We have today, February 18th, 2024, will be the 49th day of the year. So today's the 49th day of the year. We're aware that the 49ers just lost this recent Super Bowl, so there could definitely be significance to this, especially since back in 2020, during February, right after the 49ers lost to the Chiefs in Super Bowl 54, this was the most bullish time for the crypto market in almost 5 months, and that is around 150 days. And if you took from where we are now back 150 days, well, that's right around the time frame of September, right around Rosh Hashanah. And speaking of Rosh Hashanah, if we were to take from the last Rosh Hashanah of September 16th of 2023, and this would effectively be the end of the Jubilee, something that comes around only once every 50 years. Well, September 16th, 2023 to February 18th today is 22 weeks and 2 days. You see that 222 code, including the end date. We talked about this recently for this Chiefs and 49ers Super Bowl. We all remember these 2s and 22s are tied into this event. And here we have another 222 code. Also, the first day of Rosh Hashanah back in 2023 was a 22 date numerology. So not including the end date, from the first day of the Rosh Hashanah timeframe to today, still the 222 and the 22 date numerology, however you want to cut it up. And I find this to be pretty fascinating just because of these recent events that have happened with specifically this Super Bowl. So, for instance, the first time they were going against each other, the Chiefs and the 49ers, was in 2020. So I'll just show you here where I'm editing this screen. You have your 2-2. This was the exact date, February 2nd, 2020. So in the year, you have your 2-2 code. And another thing that's important about this year of 2020, it was the Hebrew year 5780. 5 plus 7 plus 8, don't include the 0, equals 20. You remove the 0 from 20 and you have 2, another 2. So that Super Bowl was in 2020, the 2-2 year, in the 2-2 date, February 2nd, and 2 plus 2, of course, is 4. And here we are 4 years later, and these teams have a rematch in the Super Bowl, and the 49ers lost again for the second time with 22 points, 22, on the second day of Chinese New Year. And this was the year of the dragon. And we have that 22 right there in the code. So in the second Super Bowl ever to go into overtime, that's another big note, how rare this was. And right after the Super Bowl, during the Chiefs Super Bowl parade in Kansas City, there was a shooting that injured 22 people. And here we are, 22 weeks and 2 days since the end of Jubilee, which also happens to be tied to the C19 date of March 11th by 22 days. So let me show you really quickly what I mean by that. We have 3. So we have from, 3/11. This would be our 4th anniversary of C19 when it was declared a pandemic by the WHO. And you can see between today and this date also has another 22 connection, 22 days before that anniversary. That's big. And again, 2 plus 2 is 4, and this will be the 4th year anniversary of this event. And right before it, we had the Super Bowl go the same way. And we're decoding this whole ritual based off this recent Super Bowl 58. And if you look right here, the C19 date is a 58 date numerology this year. That's very important. Also, we know the 49ers, 4 plus 9 equals 13, and here we have 13. Lots of code, and I believe this is important considering we're looking out for a potential repeat of a Black Swan event in the month of March, like we had not only last year with the failure of Silicon Valley Bank, but we also had it with the year of 2020. Also with the year of 2000, with the dot-com bubble top, and 2000, you remove the zeros, you're back at a 2 again. So again, today is the 49th day of the year. The 49ers lost the Super Bowl, and a month later, we had a Black Swan event in March in the 2020 example. And shout out to a member of our community, Tazkeys, who showed a gem to me. And it had to do with the first Super Bowl these two teams played in, which was 2-2 of 2020, connected to this recent Super Bowl date, which was 2/11/2024. And these two Super Bowls were 4 years and 9 days apart. And the 49ers played in both Super Bowls. Like, how unbelievable is that? Another 4-9 code. And here we are on the 49th day of this year. So one thing to keep in mind is that this would also be leading into around 49 months apart. So if I was to show you where that would bring us, it would be to March 2nd. So 49 months since this particular Super Bowl we're talking about, where we had that first event, which led to a Black Swan. And also notice how this Super Bowl back in 2020 was on the 33rd day of the year, which was also the day leaving 333 days in the year. So it's very symbolic. And we have this 8 in the date numerology. The 8 is the analemma, the pattern that the sun makes. We decoded this during the year of the dragon decode. Also, we have this 44, that is 2 4s. We're here in the year of 2024, in the Hebrew year of 224, 5,784 Hebrew year equals 24. I know we bring this up a lot, but it's important we do because, of course, we have new people here joining all the time, but as well, it's just a refresher of why certain numbers are so important during certain years. So why I think this is powerful is because we're 49 months since this 49ers Chiefs Super Bowl, and this day of March 2nd has a double-digit date numerology of 49. So it's big. Also, by the way, this would be the first 49 date numerology since the Super Bowl, since the 49ers lost. So I get this kind of question all the time. It's, Waters, what does this all mean? And what are all these numbers tied to? Well, let's answer this based on current events. I feel like that's important. A lot of people want to know, what do the numbers mean? What kind of energy do they have? Right? So we can already consider this number 49 and 22 has been tied to negative energy. This Super Bowl is a perfect example of the 49ers losing twice to the same team, and their score was 22 points in the recent rematch, and 22 people just got injured in the shooting in Kansas City. The winning team has a 22. This is what I would call a canceling out of energy now, so keep that in mind. And the Chiefs won this game with 25 points. We have Chiefs gives you 25 in Chaldean. We have Crypto also gives you 25 in the same cipher. The ticker symbol of Bitcoin is BTC, that's 25. And Bitcoin is doing incredible right now. If you mirror the 25 and you have 52, cryptocurrency is 52, and we're in the 24 year, but that 52 is big because Bitcoin's local top is currently 52,000 while I film this video. And the day of the shooting in Kansas City on Valentine's Day, let me quickly show you this right here. That was the day that this all went down. I should probably go up here. So if we were to take from this time frame, go to the daily chart, of our lows that we had on the day of that shooting in Kansas City, which was Valentine's Day, the 14th. By the way, we were trading within the $49,000 level. Well, if I go from this closure to the following high closure, it equals 4.9%. You can't make this up. We have the 49ers Super Bowl, Bitcoin trades into 49K, and then from the low closure after the Super Bowl up to the high closure was 4.9%. Absolutely wild how coded in this all is. I mean, that couldn't be a coincidence, right? So getting back to the code, this number 25 could also be perceived as 2 5s. We're talking about this cryptocurrency and Chiefs having the 25, etc. Again, we're just trying to determine energy here. What numbers are positive, what numbers are giving us a negative essence. And we have the Chiefs winning. They scored 25 points. We have 25 in Chiefs. 25 is 2 5s when you're doing a little bit more esoteric decoding. And 2 5s is 55. We have Satoshi Nakamoto giving you 55 in multiple ciphers. Considering our upcoming full moon is on February 24th, let me show you this. And February 24th, the upcoming full moon is on the 55th day of this year. Also, let me show you some more code. We have Chiefs equals 32 right there. We have Dragon equals 32 in the same cipher. And the mirror of 32 is 23, like Draco gives you 23, that's Dragon in Latin, and then another 23 is Bitcoin with that 23. So we have some energy here to work with in the numbers. Whatever's doing well right now or whatever has been negative on the world stage, you could start to make your connections this way. This is how you use the decoding system. Also, another thing about Draco is it gives you the 94, that's the mirror of the 49, like 49ers. And 17 in Chaldean. 17 is your 7th prime number, and 49 is the 7 squared, 7 times 7. We also have Dragon giving you 59. 59 is your 17th prime number, again tied to that 7. 7 sevens is 49. Could this mean after Satoshi's 49th birthday, which is going to be on April 5th, and the following solar eclipse on April 8th, that we have a negative phase for Bitcoin, considering the energy of this number 49 we've decoded. So think about it. The 49ers were doing so good. They made it all the way to the Super Bowl, and then they lose in overtime, meaning the last minute, right? Well, maybe Bitcoin stays positive generally, and then we have a pivot point of some negative energy that comes in after the solar eclipse, like the 49ers lost. And Satoshi has its 49th birthday soon. And we could kind of consider some of the energy here on eclipses isn't always just a straight up breakout. We have over here where we topped out leading into our second solar eclipse. Then right after the solar eclipse, we were really bullish. Here's another example of we had our first solar eclipse of the solar cycle. Bitcoin was super bullish right there into April. We had our solar eclipse, and then we had about a 21% pullback. Both pullbacks were about 20% every time. Even this recent pullback was 20%. Is this telling us that the 30 to 40% pullbacks Bitcoin used to have in 2017 into the 2018 cycle, is that maybe what we're going to have this time, but with a lesser pullback range, or maybe 20 to 30% biggest pullbacks we get? Could be. Pretty much every pullback we've got in this whole time frame has been 20 to 22%, not much more. Considering that the 49ers lost by 22 points and the Chiefs won by 25, that also kind of fits into the numbers here. And there's going to be plenty of numbers that show up for the rest of this year with all the other games that happen. You know, I mean, also we have the Paris Olympics, which is going to be big. But that'll impact more Q4, and we're not there yet. So taking things one step at a time. One other thing to mention about this 55 and 25 code, we just had the S&P 500 close at 5,005, the 5.5. Pretty weird. Also, silver has a major rejection point at $24 an ounce, 2 4s. It's pretty coded. We have XRP right now at 55 cents, the S&P at 5,005. Bitcoin hit 52K, 2 5s, 55. Unbelievable. And this isn't the first time this has happened. This is on 3 years of this channel. Anybody who's been here for a while now knows that we find these little gems all the time. Okay, so just the key point, and then we'll wrap up this idea. Could this mean that after Satoshi's 49th birthday on April 5th and the following solar eclipse on April 8th, that we have a little bit of a negative phase for Bitcoin, considering the energy of this number 49 that we've decoded tied to this 49ers Super Bowl? And remember, today is the 49th day of this year. Let's get back to that. And tomorrow, February 19th, would be connected to the solar eclipse that we're about to have on 4/8 of 2024 by 49 days, which is the day before the 9th of April, the 4/9 date. So you have the 4/9, you have 49, and today is the 49th day of the year. I told you about this in the last Red Pill podcast, by the way. So if this is brand new knowledge to you, please watch those podcasts. It's packed full of information. We got this idea of the post 5 days after the Chinese New Year, leading into or through Valentine's Day into the 16th. I updated you guys on that a while ago. So yeah, please take notes as you go through these. I know there's a lot of information, but there's so many gems, and you'll definitely walk away with a ton of value if you invest your attention into this and take notes along the way. So tomorrow, with this 49th day of the year moving into 49 days until the upcoming solar eclipse, which is the day before the 4/9 date, well, tomorrow would be moving into the 5-day window around the full moon. I told you the full moon is on the 24th, another 24 connection to this year we're in. Also remember what happened 2 years ago on the 24th of February. We had the Russia-Ukraine invasion. So that's something we're going to talk about a little bit later as well. When we're around a full moon, that's typically when we get our corrections, our microcycle corrections. So if there's any time for Bitcoin to chill out and have a little bit of a pullback, it's now. Unless we get a black swan in March, meaning a deeper pullback. And I'm going to be sharing a couple examples later of just generally why Bitcoin tends to do what it does around this time, but how we're clearly early in the cycle to be making this type of bullish move, and how if we were to just keep doing what we're doing now and continue up in a straight line over the next couple weeks or month, this is not healthy, and this is a sign of danger. So I don't want to startle anyone. I'm not trying to, pee on anyone's parade, but it's really not a time to be so happy, even though we see Bitcoin doing really well, because this might be leading us to an even longer or elongated bearish phase before we should really be in a healthy zone. And I know that could be confusing to some, but even with this Bitcoin narrative in play, it can't just completely throw technicals to the wayside. There is structure that needs to be built, and anything that goes up in a straight line has a catastrophic pullback. We don't want to relive the dot-com bubble, and I think that's kind of what it's feeling like right now. And for the people that are emotionally responding to this, it's definitely a good time to be calm. Ask questions in the server, you leverage on each other's knowledge. And if you feel like FOMOing in right now, that's exactly what the market maker wants you to feel. Don't let them get the best of you, because that's what happened in 2020 into February. And there was the biggest rug pull of all time across the board in March. It came out of nowhere, and they gave you a exoteric reason for why they did it. And although, yes, it was a V-shaped recovery, yes, it led to one of the greatest buying opportunities and greatest bull runs of our century, it does not mean that before it, people weren't getting FOMO. And when you have FOMO and you actually act on FOMO, and then there's a bigger correction that follows, you usually panic sell. That's the cycle that keeps retail from being in a profitable posture over the long time horizon, okay? It keeps you very jumpy, very reactionary, very emotional, and it can make things like sleep difficult. It can make your communications difficult. It could really get the best of you. So right now, Don't let this shit get the best of you. There's plenty of opportunity in this market. Okay, so let's get back to this. I want to just revisit the Bitcoin chart from last year to kind of look at how the month of February went. And it was right around here in this phase. So you see that we went up into February 2nd. We had a little bit of a pullback, and then we went up into our final leg up on February 16th. Then we chopped sideways until about February 24th. And then that followed into a deeper correction in March 10th, the day that Silicon Valley Bank failed. So that pullback from the February highs right over here to the March lows was 22% over 22 days. Shocker. So look at that. We have another 22 connection, multiple 22s, not only 22%, but it went for 22 days. We know that the 49ers just lost this Super Bowl with 22 points. So this is very fascinating how we have this February elusive move to the upside, and then it's led to some even deeper corrections than what you get in the month of January, for instance. Now, that's just one example. Let's go back to 2022, the 222 year. Here we are. Let me turn off all this noise. In this phase right there, we made our highs on February 10th. And then we had this February 24th Russia-Ukraine invasion right after the Super Bowl that year. Bitcoin chopped around sideways until the highs in mid or late March, And we had highs in February, no new highs in March, and effectively a little bit of a bull trap even in late March before we had a much deeper correction, which then continued into what we call the bear market. This was a bear flag, macro bear flag that formed that went sideways for several months before a deeper correction. During this phase in 2022 of February, I believe we had a 20% correction here. There you go. We had about a 25% correction, followed by a little bit of recovery into March, and then even a bull trap into late March. And remember what happens in late March this year. We have a lunar eclipse. Also, remember late March in general when I get into the S&P Year of the Dragon analysis. It's going to have a pattern. Also, since my recent videos came out, many have commented, what does it matter what age Satoshi is or was during a particular year? Or this comment that anyone could just point out a random number and show you how it's connected in some way. And I welcome skepticism, but let's explain ourselves here. For those who are still skeptical of this piece of gnosis that I've revealed about the significance of Satoshi's age and birthday in regards to the Bitcoin price, let's check in on this 22 example. We have April 5th right here. It is the date that Satoshi Nakamoto's mythological 47th birthday happens. Also, Bitcoin was trading at 47K on Satoshi Nakamoto's 47th birthday. That was also the last time Bitcoin traded at 47K all the way until just a month ago, on January 8th, right around leading into the ETFs being launched. It was from the 47th birthday all the way up until now. That's how long it took. Oh, and by the way, it swiped through 48K during Satoshi's 48th year of age. Can't make this shit up. But I want to show you something that's pretty amazing about April 5th of 2022 and January 8th of this year. One second. Okay. Actually, what I would like to do real quick is I want to skip over some of this. Not as important. I want to stay on time. Okay. I really hope my internet doesn't get weird because I feel it. It's so stormy out there. All right, let's get back in action. So we have a couple 47s to mention about this, just to summarize the thought on the 47th year of age for Satoshi, 47K Bitcoin. We did not see 47 after that for a while until recently in Satoshi's 48th year of age, and 47 is the 15th prime number. The lowest we went in that cycle was 15K. Also, if you take from this top over here to the top that we had in this cycle, it's 47 days of the February highs to the late March highs. So we're seeing that coded in pretty effectively, even in the low price, with the 47 being the 15th prime and the 15 was the lowest we were. Okay. So there's so many examples of this. I know a lot of you who've been decoders for a while, you probably have so many decodes on this run-up talking about price related to Satoshi's age, 45th year of age, year of the ox, or year of the bull. We had a lot of 45s there. It's just crazy how many examples there were, but 47th year of age in this 47K followed by correction was magical to watch that all go down. It's the code that runs this market, gematria, numerology, and astrology. And what we're talking about here, we're not preaching that we're perfect or have it all figured out, but at least we are students of the esoteric, and we're putting in the effort to decode this market so we could be one step ahead of the rest. And honestly, just by having some of this awareness, it puts you a million steps ahead of the average investor. And I couldn't possibly decode every single project in this space, but I'm giving you a system here so you can utilize these tools to decode the projects that interest you. And if you really want to step up your game to develop a solid foundation for your decoding system, then that is what I created the Decoding Mastermind course for. That's exactly what it's all about. So let's get into the S&P chart really quickly. I want to go over the year of the dragon analysis. Really wild also how we have this 5005, the 55 on this weekly close for the S&P. 2 5s, Chiefs won 25 points. All right, let's pull up some data. We're here at the year of the dragon. Let's go back to 2012. I'm gonna drink some water. All right. So here we are, year of the dragon, 2012, our most recent iteration. We moved up bullish all the way until late March, early April. We topped out on April 2nd. Another thing to note is our RSI topped out on February 9th. Then the S&P continued its price uptrend while RSI was making lower highs until a much needed pullback in June. And I want you to take note of this pullback in June. We pivoted perfectly on the June full moon, by the way. Look at that. The white dots are the full moon. The blue dots are the new moon. So we perfectly pivoted right there. We had a MACD cross to the upside. We started a bullish divergence, and then we actually continued on through the rest of the year of the dragon. Bullish. And this correction that we got right here, it was clear bearish divergence that started to become noticeable by February. Remember, we're in the month of February now. Let's go to 2000. That was a very famous year of the dragon because we had the 2000 .com bubble. So it's this box up here. And where we topped out initially was March 24th. That was the .com bubble. Remember that number 24. That's our number this year. That's big. Compared to the prior cycle, we were about 10 days difference, but still late March, early April, same pretty much time frame. And then we had a pullback, a little more of a dramatic pullback into April 14th, 15th, but I just want to show you, looking at this late May, how it's very similar to the June example that we got in the prior iteration. Let's go over to 1988. By the way, I just watched the movie Donnie Darko, and I was blown away that in the movie Donnie Darko, there's a scene where the father and his friend are watching a Super Bowl. Get ready for this. This shit's wild. They're watching a Super Bowl, and the player that they bring up in that Super Bowl was Doug Williams. And I decoded this for the Chiefs Super Bowl against the Eagles last year. Remember, I did not do a full-length decode in the Super Bowl this year. It was not a priority for me because I had to get this decoding mastermind course out. But what we had in the big gem of the Chiefs and Eagles Super Bowl 57 decode was Doug Williams. And this narrative of there being black quarterbacks going against each other for the 57 Super Bowl. And it was Patrick Mahomes and Jalen Hurts. Big topic of conversation. They brought race into it all. And February is Black History Month, blah, 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 right? Honestly, this is all sick to even think about how they do it this way, but, well, we're in the Matrix, and this thing is very egoic in a strange sense. But getting back to Donnie Darko, I just thought it was insane how it took place in 1988, which was the year of the dragon, but there was the Doug Williams scene in the Super Bowl. He killed it that Super Bowl. They absolutely destroyed. He was playing for the Redskins, I believe. Again, another Native American theme. Redskins, like Chiefs. And that was how I decoded it. That was what gave me that little bit of nugget to go with the Chiefs last year. So I thought it was amazing, that little scene of Doug Williams. And then the main character in the movie is this bunny rabbit, this big, scary rabbit named Frank. And that was for the year of the rabbit decode with the Chiefs. I mean, it was just blowing my mind how there's no human being that could have synchronized that together. Because, by the way, I think that movie Donnie Darko came out in 2001. So it's like it came out in the year of the snake, I think. It was filmed during the year of the dragon. It took place during the year of the dragon. Listen to this, guys. I think I'm right. I know we're going on a little tangent, but it's big. It's big stuff. I know Logan would love this right now. Decode your reality. So here we are. We have the movie was released in 2001. Bunny Rabbit. It was released right there. Wow. So like we were probably still in the year of the rabbit, maybe. Yeah. I know you movie buff fans out there might really love this decode I'm sharing. Okay, yeah, so we were officially in the year of the dragon when Donnie Darko released. I mean, yeah, that should be accurate. Right before the end of the year of the dragon, this thing came out on the 19th day. The 119 date, 9/11 backwards. In 2001, the year we had 9/11. Can you believe this? Yeah, that was Sundance. And then it was still released officially around October 26th. And the whole theory or idea behind the movie is Frank, this bunny rabbit, is kind of possessing Jake Gyllenhaal, the main character, Donnie. And he tells him when the world's going to end. So it's like they have this theme of the end of the world, but it's happening in the year of the dragon in 1988. Anyways, I think this was an eclipse around here in October. We have an eclipse also in October of this year. Strange. Okay, I got to get back on track now. I know we used a little bit of our time, but I feel like you guys should go check this movie out because of that Doug Williams scene. And, I used that to decode the Chiefs. During the year Donnie Darko came out, we had the 9/11 event. This movie is talking about the end of the world or an apocalypse. It's weird stuff. But look at where our market tops out in the year of the dragon. Initially, late March, mid-April. Or mid-March, mid-April, if you want to call it. we have this like micro double top, followed by a correction into May, just like the 2000 example. Literally almost the same day, actually, both around the full moon. Now, in 1988, there was a total solar eclipse on March 18th, right here, literally the day of the exact top of the market. Ooh, that's my power going out. I'm going to keep filming. Hopefully this will all reboot up. All right, as predicted, my power went out, but we're good to go now. Let's hope. So, we were talking about 1988, Donnie Darko, Year of the Dragon. Let's get it back on the rails. So, 1988, bullish into late March, correction into late May, same story that we got on all these prior examples. And we also have a solar eclipse coming up in our cycle right now in early April. And all iterations had a pullback into late May or June. Let's just call it May or June full moons. So you guys can go ahead and mark your calendars for the traditional markets, May, June, full moon timeframe. And that could give us a good idea of when to anticipate some pullbacks in the traditional markets, which would absolutely affect the crypto market as well. I know the crypto market right now is getting a little bit overheated, and we'll talk a little bit more on what to anticipate in the short term for that, but just something to keep in mind. So in 1976, let's go back to that iteration. Now, here we have almost the same as 1988. We topped initially right here around March 24th into early April. Same exact example, just like the dot-com bubble, and then followed by a pullback into June within 5 days of the June full moon. Since we clearly have a pattern, I want to skip to 1940. This is the year of the dragon example during World War II. We'll get there eventually. This is so long ago. So we have 1940. We topped out on April 8th during the year of the dragon, followed by a very deep correction. So what I'm about to get into right now is very significant because the eclipses during 1940 are almost identical to the ones we have this year, both happening in the year of the dragon. The first eclipse in 1940 was the lunar eclipse between March 23rd and March 24th, and the following solar eclipse was April 7th, within 24 hours of the solar eclipse that we have this year. Both eclipses, actually. So it's nearly identical, both years of the dragon. I think this is significant. And look at the S&P chart. We had a crash in mid-May, right into the May full moon, and bottomed by June 10th before a recovery. Same time frame as pretty much all the other iterations earlier. There's a clear pattern here. We are up in the markets until about April. Then we pivot, and for whatever reason, the May and June full moons, we have corrections, and then we get a buyback till Q4 every single time. So what happened in May 1940 that caused this sharp correction? Well, apparently Germany invaded Western Europe. Germany invaded Belgium, the Netherlands, Luxembourg, and France. So there was a war theme that created this sell-off in the market, this market panic. Now, the official start date of World War II was in 1939, the year prior, during the year of the rabbit in September. And we just had last year, during the year of the rabbit in October, the war in Israel. Between the start of World War II, let me show you this right here. I'll just say it. Between the start of World War II, which was September 1st of 1939, and April 8th, which was right around that eclipse of 1940, just like we have the eclipse this year around the same time, that was 220 days, or 7 months and 7 days. And remember, 7 times 7 is 49, the key number from our decode earlier. And one key note regarding the San Francisco 49ers is the last Super Bowl they won was in 1994. The 1994 season. So the game was in 95, but it was for the 94 season. 94 is the mirror of the number 49, and the Super Bowl that the San Francisco 49ers won in 94 for that season, they scored 49 points. Think about that. So just weird how this system is not anything new. It's going back all the way to the beginning of time. It's what's always ran this market is numerology. It's what's ran all these big exoteric sporting events. Now, since this pattern has been deciphered by us for March and April, and we're talking about this war theme, I decided to connect the day World War II started, which was on September 1st of 1939, to this upcoming April, and to see if there was any connections. And I found one that could be big, and it's September 1st, 1939 to April 18th of this year. It's 30,911 days, and there is significance to this because it's the 3,333rd prime number. It's a very rare thing to see. And we also have the 911 in it, but the 3333. So another thing I wanted to do was connect September 1st to maybe some dates that I could find in March, and I did find one that is close enough to the day that I've been telling you guys about, which was March 10th through 15th, and here we are with a connection from March 9th of 2024 to the start of World War II, and this is 30,871 days, which is the 3,330th prime, 333 code, the ascended master number. And since earlier we did mention that number 22 did have a negative essence for this year, so far at least, well, we're still within the 22nd anniversary of 9/11. So let me show you this really quickly. September 11, 2001. And we're within that 22nd anniversary of that time frame. And we had all those 2s and 22s tied to this Super Bowl, and I just mentioned April 18th moments ago. So connecting September 11th, 2001 to April 18th, the initial date we figured out, is 22 years, 220 days. More 22s, so let's push that up 2 days to April 20th, and we have 22 years, 222 days since 9/11. Now, this is not something to just go, oh, well, anyone could connect these numbers. You can't do that because September 11, 2001 was exactly 222 months to the day C-19 was declared a pandemic. That is unbelievable. So when you're getting all these 2s, and it's based off an event that already had multiple 2 connections, can't deny this, especially if it's showing up in the month of April. So one other thing to mention about how these dates are synchronized is September 11, 2001 is the day leaving 111 days in the year. Well, April 20th of this year is the 111th day of this year. Think about this, family. This is pretty wild. Of course, this is a leap year, which is why this is happening. So April 20th could be definitely important. And we have that 18th, again, just 2 days earlier, that 2-day window. And remember, April is actually the second month in the calendar. It would not make sense to be the 4th. We'll get into that more later, but it will be the second month in the calendar in this hemisphere. So we have the second month, 20th day. That's another 22. And the only thing that concerns me about this day of April 20th is the fact that it's a 68 double-digit date numerology. And World War I started on a 68 date numerology. World War II started on a 68 date numerology. The recent Russia-Ukraine invasion happened on a 68 date numerology. The Yom Kippur War started on October 6th, which is October is octo is 8, like a 8-sided polygon, octagon. And the 6th day, that's 68 written internationally. Also, October 6th is the day leaving 86 days in the year. And there's this buzzword going around called this. I can't say it. But this equals 86. The Vietnam War started on a 86 double-digit date numerology on November 1st, 1955. And it's been 68 years since that war started. That war started in 1955. The date Russia invaded Ukraine was on February 24th, the 55th day of the year. And look at how February 24th this year. Let me show you. So we have this 55 day, and I just wanted to talk about this connection to the date numerologies for the day Russia invaded Ukraine in 2022, 2/24. It was a 68 end of 14 date numerology. It's the same. And since this is during the time frame of sidereal Aries, ruled by Mars, the god of war, this doesn't shock me. And let's talk about a little bit of the code with Russia. We have this 24. We know we're in the year of 24, Hebrew year that adds up to 24, the year of the X, 24th letter in the alphabet. This is a very important year for Russia and Vladimir Putin. He was born in 1952, which is a year of the dragon. This is a year of the dragon, and his birthday is literally October 7th, the day the war in Israel started last year. Can we call that a coincidence? Putin also equals 24 in Gematria. Next Saturday will be the second anniversary since this Russia-Ukraine invasion, but just 2 days before, on the 2/22 date, we have a 68-14 date numerology. So that's really interesting how that's all synced together. A couple things I could share is that this is also on a Thursday, Thor's Day, day of Jupiter. I decoded this for our year of the dragon. Also, Jupiter gives me this 27 in Chaldean, just like this gives you 27 in Chaldean. February 8th, the day Putin did the interview with Tucker Carlson, was also a Thursday, day of Jupiter, part of this decode. February 22nd, 53rd day of the year. 53 is the 16th prime number. We also have Russia giving you the 16. Also, Russia has 24 in it, just like our year, just like Putin, in the same cipher. Now, this is really crazy. I'm about to show you. I have to copy and paste this because it's a long name. So we see how February 22nd, the 2/22 date, which we know the 2 and the 22 are important for this year since this recent Super Bowl event. It is the day leaving 313 days in the year. And this whole name of Vladimir Putin equals 313. 313 in the 68-14 date numerology, the same as it was during the invasion 2 years ago. Crazy. It's pretty wild stuff. So this really makes me feel that either Russia or China is going to return to the conversation between now and mid-May, with emphasis on this upcoming week, as well as March 10th through 15th, and another event on April 15th through 20th, with a trigger event specifically on April 15th. A trigger event that could happen on May 10th or 11th would be pretty standard. The same with April 15th. And since we have all these iterations showing a stock market top out in late March or early April, with several iterations showing the importance of the eclipse at that time of the year, this gives us a really solid chance of knowing where the market is going to go and when it's going to pivot. And that would be around our lunar eclipse or solar eclipse of this year. And since the Bitcoin halving is in late April after the solar eclipse, and we see the market usually corrects through April into June, then this means we have a halving cycle to consider that could be very similar to what we're doing right now, and that's in 2016. So we're going to be getting over into the charts now, going to be pulling up Bitcoin, going over this halving cycle that happened in 2016. So here's our cycle. We had our Shemitah here from 2014 to 2015, just like we recently had a Shemitah over here from 2021 to 2022. Then we moved into a solar cycle with this solar eclipse right here. We moved into a solar cycle with this solar eclipse right here. Same thing. We had our bottom right there at the end of the Shemitah. We had our bottom here right there at the end of the Shemitah. Then we rose up into our eclipses. So here, bottom at the end of the Shemitah, we rose up into our eclipses. We're now in the phase leaving the second solar eclipse into the third, and that's exactly what we're doing right now. We're approaching the third solar eclipse of our solar cycle. But I want to check in with where we were trading around the halving, and we topped out before the halving, followed by a pretty dramatic correction, and that could very well be what we're doing right now. You can see how we almost backtested the 0.5 fib on this wick right here. Well, if we were to do that right now, that would be like us dropping down to this region here of about 33K Bitcoin, 34K Bitcoin. And that could happen in a single day. It could get bought back up, and we could be back above this golden pocket 618 and trading sideways before heading on to the next leg of the cycle. But if we were to take from this halving date, around the time of our halving, we still got met with about a 20% correction generally. It right here, even another 20-30% correction along the way. And we know that about 50 days before the halving and 50 days after the halving, we're kind of sideways generally. It's after 50 days that we're on recovery mode. So like I said earlier, we are moving up a little quick, but we're still within reason of past examples. The only thing that we've done that's different is we've started closing dailies above the top side of the golden pocket, while looking at this logarithmically on a log scale with our fibs based in log scale. I'm aware other analysts might do other things, but that's what they do. It's not that anyone's doing it right or wrong. It's just if you take the data and you apply it and you stay consistent, you'll be able to determine what's likely to happen at certain phases, and that's your version of the TA. Just like there's no better Wyckoff method or Elliott wave theory. It's that they're both useful. You could become more proficient in one than the other. You could become a specialist in one and then therefore do very well with one system. You could even learn both and be even more refined. You know, it's not that there's a better or worse. It's really better to just take the emotions out of it completely, invest over the long time horizon, and be less reactionary and more responsive, and you'll get better every time. So I like this 2016 cycle. I think it makes a lot of sense, this whole idea. Our current cycle also is the closest that we've ever had our halving to the third solar eclipse in a solar cycle, and that closest example would be back in 2020, right here, where we had the halving in May. This time around, we have the halving in late April, very close. We also have April eclipse. Here we had a June eclipse. So this is the closest example that we have to what was going on here. Also, coincidentally, that's how the Super Bowl went back then. It was the same. Now what we're waiting on is, are we going to get something like this? Not the repeat, but something like this in the month of March that just blindsides everyone. And yeah. I mean, by the way, by the time we closed off the month of March, we were just as high as we were around the solar eclipse that was before that. So these types of pullbacks can be just a washout and a quick buyback. There was a 20% correction actually as well, right into the halving. If you look at how we topped out around May 7th, and then we had right there, you can see a 19% pullback over about 4 trading days. It was the same case back in 2016, actually. 2016, taking from these highs, I mean, it was obviously 30%. If you wanted to take from the halving day all the way to the bottom, we got about a 28. And if you just did it off of daily closes, it's about an 18 to 19% correction. So all in all, it's like giving you a last chance. It's not just up forever. And it's generally sideways around, or at least 50 days after the halving. It's been that way every time. Why that's so perfect is because that aligns with the analysis that I shared for the Year of the Dragon in the S&P. If we were to take 50 days after our halving that's predicted to be in late April, you're going to see 50 days later brings you into June. Remember, I told you the May and the June full moons. Also, as most of you are aware, Bitcoin has yet to hit an all-time high before a halving. So it really seems like what's going on right now for Bitcoin is a short squeeze. Let's get over into this analysis over here. I brought this up in my recent YouTube video, which is a parallel channel, that Bitcoin is still respecting the current resistance and the current support. The support has yet to be back tested. I talked about how there's a time frame of about 6 months from the last time trading in it. Or is it 8 months? I think it's about 8 months, excuse me. All in all, 250 days. If we were to take 250 days, that would bring us to May 20th. Or 250 days from here would bring us to June 18th. So if we were to mimic returning back to the support, it would either be the May or June full moon. And those levels would be somewhere around 37K Bitcoin to 40K Bitcoin. That right there is the bottom of our golden pocket. So if we're going to go any deeper to the downside, I do think we'll respect this trend line for now. This is a very important support, and the fact that this support line has been in play, or this parallel channel for that matter, has been in play for 600 days, it would be weird for it to not continue to respect this for at least a little more time. Okay, we're going to get to the 12-hour chart. I think there's something going on here that's pretty obvious. We're going to bring it up again. And it's this bearish divergence. So we have over here, I brought this up in my last video, we looked at it from a daily perspective. If I was to look at the daily, we can see that this peak right here in December, we've double topped on that peak regarding recent price action. I wouldn't call that clearing the divergence. It's still in play. On the 12-hour, it's even more dramatic. So you can see right here, we have 12-hour RSI of 92. Then 84, and then quite recently, pretty much within reason of that, but about 81, 82, a little bit lower, and a rejection right off that level. Same thing happened on the daily. So we have a price uptrend, RSI or oscillator downtrend, lower highs on the RSI and higher highs on the price. That to me seems like we need a stall out moment, chill out a little bit, go back into oversold on the 12-hour, which could be anything like a retest down to 37, 36, and then we'll build some support, continue on up. Let's go to the CME chart because there was some gaps. I believe there's one still in play at 40K, so that could definitely be important for what I just shared moments ago. Now this is a very, very tiny gap, and it would be hard to confirm if this counts, but it is still a gap right there. It was formed on January 23rd. And that sits right below 40K. So that would be like 39K spot or 38K spot or a double bottom. It would essentially be just a double bottom from this pivot here in January and a full pullback from this area. If we were to quote unquote double bottom. It would be a 27% pullback for Bitcoin, right around 30%, and that is a healthy pullback for what we've done lately. Now again, that's only getting you to about this zone of where we first hit resistance before ETF season. And I've mentioned many times how whenever we get our eclipses, you want to mark the day of the solar eclipse, and we usually do not close the following solar eclipse lower. So our solar eclipse of October was 27K Bitcoin. I do not see us closing lower than 27K Bitcoin on the next eclipse, but it sounded a lot sexier when I said it before the last eclipse. When I was telling people in September, when we were at 26K, that whatever we close on in the October eclipse, we will not close lower in the following eclipse in April. Back then, it sounded a lot sexier. Now, when you say it, it's like old new. It's disregarded for whatever reason. But that's just the way humans are. Can't help that. So let's bring up some of our moving averages. We'll start with the 4 hour because that's where things will develop first. We have this 8 and 55 pinching together. It's getting a little bit closer after we've met some resistance. We're continuously closing lower highs on this for going on 4 days, actually. So on our daily, if we were to have any more red candles, I think that would start to show a weakness. Also, we would have our MACD facing to the downside, a little bit of a downside slope. And I would assume this is already happening on the 12 hour. Yes, it is. 12 hour MACD cross. The last time this happened, we had a full pullback of about 20%, 22%. So we'll see how things go. Also on the 12 hour, we got supported with the 200s. And our 200s are sitting at about 41, 42. That would only be, I think, a 20% pullback. Yep, there you go. Bitcoin's very bullish right now. It's very, very bullish, and it's going to be very elusive if it's going to stay like this. This is very confusing territory. Let's get over to Ethereum. Ethereum doing very good today, but remember, it is a weekend. It's also a 3-day weekend. This is all just leverage right now. This is not institutional players. This is mostly leverage traders. And whales always have sell walls set, and they always have a moment where they organize to dump on the market. That's happened so many times now since I've been doing this professionally, and it becomes big, exciting moment. Then everyone starts pushing news about how many people were liquidated over the last 4 hours. I would not be surprised if something like that hits us soon. But as I said moments ago, I think what we're in right now is a short squeeze. So we have Ethereum respecting this trend line. Let me show you real quick, and I'll turn off all this. I'm gonna remove these. It's not as important as our structural levels. So we have this trend line that's been in play as a support. We broke through it effectively in the summertime, and lately we've been recovering back to it, and it's still been holding as a resistance ever since around the end of 2023. So as we approach the 702, that's a crucial level, right below $3,000 Ethereum. That's a pretty crucial level, and I think we have the same story with ETH on the 12 hour of a bearish divergence. Actually, we're looking a little better on ETH. That's to be expected too, because Ethereum is an altcoin. But still technically lower highs, and we had our highs coming in November. Today we're still lower. Yeah. This type of rally that we've gotten perfectly to this trend line, just like we got it last time in early January. I mean, it's very fishy, very weird. Also, when we're pumping on this on a weekend day, that also shows you that this is like pure speculation, retail trading only. I would not be surprised if the whales step in soon and do some dirty damage. Really not a whole lot to say on Ethereum. It's just in a continuation pattern. If it was to continue past the 702, then the top of the golden pocket is next. And for that to happen right now would be very odd. But, speculation's high. So if it happens, it happens. Also, most people in this market, a lot of people even in this community, are not even invested in Bitcoin or Ethereum. So I know a lot of people are mostly XRP or just general altcoin holders. They're aware of the ROI potential there, and that's fine. And we're using these things like Bitcoin and ETH as a compass of where this market could go. Tapping really quickly into this Bitcoin dominance, we're still holding the range, the same range that we topped out effectively in late June. Now we're building some trading range between this 51% and 54%. This is by no means alt season vibes. And look at how obviously manipulated this has been. Yeah, you see this type of action is very, very algorithmic. This is pre-planned style where you have 8 straight days of reds followed by a couple of weeks of greens followed by the exact same amount of reds. And then this is really not normal stuff. Can't find many examples that look like this, of this type of action. It's very ugly, clearly done by machines. Bitcoin back at 52. Let's look at what ETH or XRP is doing. Okay, we've popped back into this pattern. Let me check in on this chart. Beautiful. So we brought this up recently. We already know about the major support trend line. Now we're facing this resistance. And I talked about this in my last video, how we have a couple of isolated events potentially in the month of March and the month of April. So we want to keep that in mind because April is the grand trial. And if there's anything to expect for leading into that, it's bullish. There's going to be speculation on that case, just like there was speculation on the case with what happened in July of this year, or last year, excuse me. Let me get over to this one chart real quick. So I'm talking about this moment right there. And then it followed by a big sell-off. So I would not be surprised if leading into late March, early April, and getting closer to the grand trial, that XRP is bullish. And then probably after the event, there's something that triggers a little bit of a sell-off, traps bulls at the top, and then market structure continues to the upside. Right now, believe it or not, we are building structure on what was the prior resistance. We've come and back tested it now for a pretty substantial amount of time, and we're flipping a prior resistance into a new support. So it's like XRP is stair-stepping up, but just in a very not so, like in a very arduous fashion, in a way that's not so fun, but it is technically still holding structure, making higher lows, higher highs. And yeah, all we need to do now is break the 70-cent region, and I think we'll have a lot of opportunity to move straight to $1. And generally, we would expect this to catch up into the golden pocket territory, which would be somewhere around $1, $1.20. We have a couple of these rejections back here at around $1.30, and when as high as $1.40. If there's to be an upside target on this move, it would be there. It would be right about $1.30, $1.40. And it could happen isolated from Bitcoin and the rest of the alt market. We've seen this happen a lot lately with other altcoins. So as of right now, I think my bags are packed on XRP. I'm not really worried if it was to drop to 51 or 52, or if it was to even retest the current lows at 48. In the case of Bitcoin, maybe having a deeper correction. I've been buying this thing now for so long, and I already de-risked back here in July. So I'm just patient. I think patience is needed because a lot of people that might be in other projects are looking at stuff pop off, and then, you know, they're kind of waiting for this glory day on XRP, and I get that. But we have an exoteric event to watch out for, and it's this grand trial. So like all things, typically bullish, speculating into it, and then once the event happens, a little bit of a sell-off. We even had the same effect happen with the Bitcoin ETF. Let's look at Injective. What's going on here? Wow. Okay, so we have a project here effectively at all-time highs, and look at that. Right after the eclipse, we flipped like everything else. So we know the eclipses play a big role in even this project. Right there, we had our solar eclipse, first solar eclipse of the solar cycle. We were sideways until the second solar eclipse of the solar cycle, built market structure, and then went up and broke our highs. I'm not sure how far back this project goes, but this is the best chart I could find. Wow, wild. This thing is up 3,000% over the year. Incredible move from this bottom zone. And one of the things that I teach is to always be buying below the 382. You know, we talked a lot about this in the prior bear market. One thing that could have been done on this. So we're pulling a fib from our first bounces or the area that we break down. It's not fun to do this, but when you pull it to this level, you see at the break where we went into the selling climax, it'll give you the 1618 range. So you can pull it in a more extreme fashion. You could mark out your level, and then you could have pulled it in this way. Right there, you can see lots of attempt at support. And I'm going to show you what happens here when you do this. By the way, we're looking at a log scale, log chart. So we marked this level. Now we're going to mark our second level, pulling it to here, a reverse fib, if you will. And that would have got you in at the buying zone, which wasn't just a couple days. I mean, this was a 220 something day period before this thing went up 3,000%. It might still keep going. So yeah, pretty wild. Also, it was a nice pullback to the 236. So you see this move here where we made it up to the 382. Whenever you backtest to 236, that's a good buying opportunity. I think we just watched that happen with VeChain prior, and then VeChain broke out again. And these breakouts are pretty straight into the golden pocket, either the bottom of the golden pocket or the middle. Now, one reason why I don't de-risk altcoins during this move, you notice I like to do this with Bitcoin. I said I did this with ETH, but again, ETH is not really like even an alt. It's different than that. It's like a whole technological layer, I would call it. A lot of the time when people are talking to me about altcoins, it's complete shitcoin nonsense that has no working technology, nothing built on it, no transactions are happening on it. Like, it's just, no offense, but it's just speculation. You know what I'm saying? ETH is not speculation. It's been here doing what it's been doing long enough. I know people want to be anti-it for whatever reason, but that's the exact kind of opposite of what a wolf does. You know, you don't build an emotion to any of this. Just play the game. So getting back to this kind of a pullback style, when you make it to the golden pocket, then yeah, you typically chill out, you act sideways for a little bit. I suspect Solana might be doing something like this if Solana ends up being a very bullish, in a very bullish phase before it breaks out into price discovery. It could be going something like this. And then once you decide that this is over, you know, I think this is like an ascending triangle forming. Ascending triangle forming. I'll show you guys what I mean. Again, I'm not a huge patterns guy. I know about the patterns. I know how to use them. I know how to trade them. It's all good in the hood. But for me, there's always a more sophisticated way of trading a market. It's kind of one of these. About 75% through the apex, you have a breakout. You typically break out as you entered the pattern. So if you entered a bullish, that's a bullish pattern up. And that right there gave you a pretty decent amount of time as well. 188 days, almost 200 days to build a position. Off of this rejection, we had a 44% pullback, and off of this, you had a almost over 30% pullback. Either of those buy-ins could have gotten in, leading into a 600 or 500% move. And now we could be bull flagging, but I only say that because our 1618 is sitting all the way up here at $196. So I don't know if it could go all the way there now. That'd be pretty wild. How do I feel about this? I wouldn't buy this right now. It's at all-time highs. Why buy something at all-time highs? So if you're new to this and you're just looking at this chart, I gave you a bunch of TA lessons just now. Like, if you took a note on everything I said, you learned. Apply everything I was saying to where you're at on another chart that you're interested in, and it'll give you an idea. Why the hell would anyone buy something at all-time highs? You know, so that's just basic logic here. There's plenty of opportunities in this market. It had its run. If it keeps going, okay, cool. If it goes up to the 1618, it has another 400%. We could do that in any altcoin. They could do that in any altcoin. So yeah, congrats if you're in this already. If you've been building a position, this is sort of de-risk time. And by the way, de-risk doesn't mean sell it all. It means de-risk, right? That's what I did with my Bitcoin. I didn't sell all my Bitcoin. I de-risked. I got at least my initial investment back. So all my hard-earned money is off the gambling casino, and now I'm just with house money. But I've also been accumulating Bitcoin since it was much lower than it is today. The first Bitcoin I was buying, it was at $8,700. Bitcoin's 52K today. So when I de-risked my Bitcoin holistically, it's nothing to me. So again, there's a method to the madness, but there's also, everyone is at a different stage in the cycle. Some people are brand new. Some people were here in 2019. Some people are here in 2017, maybe even earlier. You have to de-risk according to what your plan is. And yeah, there's people that think, well, maybe selling Bitcoin at 47 was stupid, but when you bought it under 10K, how is that stupid? right? And if I was buying back and trading it effectively along the way, and I've always been profitable in the asset, then I'm not concerned what people think. I only know what I am doing and what I think, and that's benefiting me. And by no means do I think anyone should have a 100% Bitcoin position. You got to play the alts too. There's a lot more ROI there. Now that we're through the bear market, you're going to start seeing a lot of amazing things happen in crypto. Lots of gains will show up, and it's patience gets rewarded in this. But when you're looking at something already at an all-time high, I'd be careful. Fantastic run. You have some of the upside potential. If I wanted to look at this in a linear scale, I would look to the 4236. It's almost perfectly in alignment. Sometimes you make it to the 6 fib. That would put you at 160. That'd be a big move. And then honestly, the biggest move potential would be right under $200. Again, from where we're at today, it's 400%. Not an opportunity in my opinion. Especially it's a late gamble. Even if it was to go 400%, you're definitely doing well, but still more opportunities in other places. Now we're going to look at LCX. Okay, very interesting. Okay, here we are in LCX. This one already had an automatic rally. So we had off of the, I guess where it launched was just maybe the wrong place at the wrong time. Although, I don't know, sometimes you don't have all the data on a TradingView chart, but pretty decent pullback. Let me look at this step by step. Yeah, we got about a 95% pullback, so that should effectively be your selling climax. A sharp rally off of that, that's your automatic reaction or automatic rally. Then coming back down, breaking some of these levels over here is a spring. And then right now you're at the finality of an SOS phase, and this SOS happening in the golden pocket is perfect. Anything over the 382, you can call it an automatic rally, especially after it has a 90+% correction. So this is a pretty clean Wyckoff. Now, the one thing to note is we have thin air until we get down to about here at the 0.5 fib, and that's very normal because look at how clean this rejection off this 786 is. Perfectly rejected. So coming back down to at least about 16 cents would be healthy. We have another kind of move over here and effectively a correction. So I like the zone of around 16, 17 cents. I would call that the next downside target. And that would be very much in alignment for this summer. Now, would I buy that? That's really speculative. I would like more data on the chart. Perhaps there is charts with more data. I just couldn't find them. I even double checked on CoinGecko and CoinMarketCap to see if there was any more data, and I couldn't find it. But it is a good structure. It's not the greatest looking chart. I mean, look at the sell-off into this bear market. This is horrendous. But ever since it's broke this top, at least we know it has a bullish essence in it. But yeah, I don't know if it would really benefit too much here. Retest of the prior all-time high at 400%, and if we were to get all the way up to price discovery, which again is a huge gamble on something that doesn't have too much data, yeah, be a big speculative run. I mean, I'm sure people who've done enough research into this project can do their due diligence and make that decision for yourself, but this looks like venture capital to me. It does not look like something that I would want to have more than 10% of my portfolio in, just given its time horizon that it's lived through. And by the way, I don't know if it lived through the C19 crash. It hasn't according to this chart. And even some of the best projects went lower lows during the C19 crash. We don't know if this thing could really take a hit. And that's important. What will this do during a black swan? We don't have the data that shows us. Maybe on the next project we will. So, decent looking chart. It's following a Wyckoff. A backup phase is what's next, and the backup phase coming down to the 0.5 fib would be healthy. It could effectively go something like this. It'd be very odd right now for us to just move into full-blown alt season, but something like that. That would be a clean backup phase. Backup phases also tend to look like a cup and handle, almost like this. Keep that in mind, that little note. Going to engine. Oh, okay, great. So look at Engine. This was your C19 crash right over here, and look at where it is at since. A little bit up, but not really that great. It effectively backtested the SOS phase in the bear market. Gotta even extend this a little more down. But anyways, let's get to this cycle. We can see there's effectively a trend line that was a resistance for going on 480 days. We popped above it, backtested it, and have bounced since. This is looking pretty damn good. The only thing that's not good about it is there's no trend to the upside. This is in a downtrend. So there's your lower high, lower high, lower high, still a lower high, and your lower low after the lower low. So it's a downtrend. And right now, though, I gotta be honest, this shit is ready to pivot very, very soon. But it's still below the 382. This is like the best time to buy into a speculative altcoin. I'm not telling you to buy it. I'm just saying this is kind of like buying in on, what was that example before? Injective? Okay, let me just show you so you could see what I'm saying. Buying in below the 236. Buying in below the 236. Okay? It could get super explosive out of nowhere. All right? Well, that's what's going on with this shit. So this might be a buy. While the other project, Injective, is not. It's all the way trading at all-time highs. But if this thing was to go back and do kind of a similar move, we'd be looking at also another 2,000%. So this is solid in my opinion. The only thing I don't like about it is at the end of this double top bull run, it lost almost all of its value going back to the start of the prior cycle, alt season. So that's not great. I mean, I think ETH is probably outperforming this, comparing C19 to where it's at today. It's probably almost certainly outperforming it. Let me just quickly check in. Not that this is a game of comparisons, but it's to teach you guys. It's to teach. Yeah, look, ETH is up 2,000. Okay, this is a fucking awesome point. So we have the C19 crash. ETH is up 2,000% from that level. Now this project maybe goes up 2,000% where it's at now, and it would need to be at an all-time high. And that project we looked at, Injective, has gone up 2,000%, but that's just recently. There's no long-term time horizon in that. When ETH is up 2,000%, this thing is only up 400%. And that's kind of what we're learning, cycle by cycle. Like, you want to position yourself something in a more long-term mindset. It's fun to play these altcoins. It's fun to play the shit coins. But you have to kind of buy it and sell it all and then hope to buy back in lower. While ETH and Bitcoin, these are long-term plays. You can just settle on them. And nobody could say the same thing for XRP. Because the last time it had a dramatic move was 2017. And here we are in 2024. You know, no offense. I'm a big XRP holder, but I can't disregard the facts. And yeah, so this thing right now today is trading back on the prior high from 2018. It has not moved 1%. Okay? That's not a great investment, you know, in a long-term thesis. I'm just being honest here. You know, we can see Ethereum from the prior all-time high is up a double. You'd be up today. You'd be up 100% from buying the exact top of ETH in 2018. This thing, you would be potentially even lower. It has made no progress. So yes, in this cycle, it looks like a better opportunity structure to buy in, but this is an altcoin that you really need to have a setup on. You need to have an exit strategy. It's not a long-term hold, clearly. So you need to be a little bit more fancy. I hope this stuff, like, you know, actually I'm glad we went through these 3 projects in particular because they were all learning or teaching experiences. They all have their own little thing that was important to note. But yeah, like getting back to the golden pocket, that's a 500% move. That's probably what's likely to come next. It could be happening very soon. It could be happening probably in August. Would make a lot of sense for this type of move to happen for this particular project. So anything below the 236 you don't sleep on. The one thing I could say though is this could flip into a head and shoulders if it is to play a pattern out, or at least I'm going to extend this line and we're going to see where it would be catching on if we were to have a deeper correction into like May, June. So yeah, we'd be looking at about 25 cents, and it could double bottom if there's a black swan, if not even, even go lower. We could do our best to try to use a trend line to catch the bottom here. It's not the most fair because we have this little moment right there, but it's still pretty damn good. If I extended it to the left, let's see what we catch on. It's good enough. So yeah, it could get worse. It could go to 17 cents. But again, we're talking very speculatively here. Let's look at Celestia. I don't know if I've covered this before. Oh, okay. So it's a brand new project. Oh yeah, I pulled this. I got this one for a reason. It got a lot of votes. This thing is very interesting how it's following this pattern. Let's look at how many days it's topping out on every single time. Got about 26 to 28 days. Here we have 26, 28 days, 30 days. And then here we have 26 days. And then what's 26 days from now? March 7th. That would be effectively our next new moon. Let's pull up our lunar cycles and see if this thing's respecting that. It sure as hell is. Whatever the hell this coin is, guys, it is perfectly following the new full lunar cycle. We're moving into a full moon. It's corrected off of the new moon literally to the days. It's called Celestia, like celestials, your cosmos, your stars, your luminaries. Well, I think you see what's happening now, but it looks like it's causing a firmament dome. So let me show you what I mean by that. We haven't done one of these in a while. I know it's a little bit longer of a podcast today, but that's where the value's at. Gotta take care of my people. I mean, you could get fancy with this if you want. You could get specific, but I think that's it. We're on a firmament dome. That's clean. Well, we could adjust this over time, but I'm going to leave this. I'm going to save this, and you could see what's up. Rejecting. And now we could effectively be keeling over, and this would be breaking a support by mid-March, coming down into the lunar eclipse, and want to extend it a little maybe, but I think that's clean. I think that's clean, like that. So we'll save this and we'll see how this goes, but this is really interesting how it's following this curve, and it's starting to not make much higher moves. So from this high up to this high, it went up 100%. From this high to this high, it went up 35%. And from this high to this high, it basically double topped. So now it's starting to seem weaker. Even though Bitcoin has been doing much better lately off of this bounce, this thing's starting to slow down. Even ETH today is breaking up to the upside, almost at 2,900. Wow, it might hit a new high. Yep, it already has. Incredible. Okay, so ETH is looking very, very bullish right now. And this isn't as much. It's starting to stall out a little bit. And we know it has this theme of going from new moon to new moon. It could effectively be following this to the downside. Now, another thing we could do that'd be a much more sophisticated play would be, I like how there was a little bit of sideways here. And we have this top, and we have this 1618 sitting at $8. Now, I don't know if this thing could have a 50% pullback right now. That would be calling something when no one wants to hear it. But if it was to trade according to these, to this firmament line, that would be right around our solar eclipse, April 8th. So it's not out of the cards. So I'll keep this in mind. On the other hand, if we were to break out, it's hard to tell where this would break out next because we just have no data. This thing's only been on the charts now for like 111 days. And by the way, moving forward, I selected this one on purpose because I thought it had an interesting looking chart and there were some things to be taught here, but I don't really want to go over charts that have under a year of data. It's too difficult. So I'm going to wrap up today's podcast here. Got a little glitch from the power going out, but we stayed strong regardless. This market's looking pretty bullish today, but remember it's a Sunday and the traditional markets are closed throughout tomorrow. So that could be giving a little bit of an extra move up for Bitcoin. We'll see. But we do know that we're moving into a very precarious moment right now. If Bitcoin was to continue past 54K and heading up to prior all-time highs this early, I think that would signal a short squeeze liquidation ritual very, very soon. And the time frame for that, still keeping it in mind for this full moon of February 24th-ish into the very early March time frame. And then we have to definitely be open-minded to a black swan event in the March and April timeframe, given everything I decoded earlier. So I appreciate every single one of you. Hope you have an amazing rest of your day in the Matrix. Much love.